Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and thank you for stopping by. I am grateful. We've uploaded Dennis McCory's Mindspeak session, his piece. That's on YouTube, and the link is on the front page of the website, rich.co.ke, and on Rich Wrap-Ups. He said many things, but most of all, he took me back to Victor Hugo, who says it takes a dream to create the future. And that's what I essentially heard from Dennis, and he's a friend and very interesting perspective. The One Hand campaign obviously got us all thinking to begin with as well. Home thoughts with all the events that I watched unfold on my screen yesterday. I went back to Delillo. In societies reduced to blur and glut, terror is the only meaningful act. There's too much everything, more things and messages and meanings than we can use in 10,000 lifetimes. Inertia, hysteria, is history possible? Is anyone serious? Who do we take serious? Only the lethal believer, the person who kills and dies for faith. Everything else is absorbed. The artist is absorbed, the madman in the street is absorbed and processed and incorporated. Give him $1, put him in a TV commercial. Only the terrorists stand outside. The culture hasn't figured out how to assimilate him. It's confusing when they kill the innocent, but this is precisely the language of being noticed, the only language the West understands, the way they determine how we see them, the way they dominate the rush of endless streaming images. I used to think it was possible for an artist to alter the inner life of the culture, how bomb makers and gunmen have taken that territory. He's an incredible writer, really is, and very subversive. I'm reading a book called End Zone, which is really about sort of military warfare, but interpreted through a story about football in a remote Texan college. It's quite extraordinary, and he is an extraordinarily luminous, I think I described him previously, writer. Look at that, what is written there. That's how apt is that? Furious, Obama says calls to Putin going straight to voicemail. This is, of course, Borowitz's report in the New Yorker. Very witty. The Borowitz's report, in what he called a provocative and defiant act, President Obama charged on Tuesday that President Vladimir Putin had started letting his calls go directly to voicemail. Speaking at the White House before this week's NATO summit, a visibly furious Obama said that Putin's new practice of letting his calls go straight to voicemail hampers our ability to discuss the future of Ukraine and other important issues going forward. Having left dozens of voicemails for the president, Obama said that he tried to reach him via email on Monday night, but received an out-of-office auto-reply. Given what he has been up to in Ukraine over the past few weeks, I find it impossible to believe he has been out of the office, Obama said. The president hinted that Putin's failure to respond to his voicemails could result in additional sanctions and signal that he did not intend to call the Russian president again. I have left my last voicemail for him, he said, adding that the last time he called Putin, his mailbox was full. I'll put up a photograph of President Obama. And then Bloomberg's reporting that he's set to deliver a warning, and this is serious. Obviously, Borowitz was tongue-in-cheek to Putin on NATO's frontier. Touchdown in Estonia. He's going to deliver reassurance to Baltic nations, direct warning to Putin. Added a stop in Tallinn, Estonia. He's on his way, of course, to Cardiff for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization summit. But he's meeting with the presidents of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania ahead of that summit. He's telling Russia, don't even think about messing around in Estonia or in any of the Baltic areas in the same way that you've been messing around in Ukraine, says Charles Kupchan, who's an advisor. It is very important to recognize that a military solution to this problem is not going to be forthcoming. However, Ukraine obviously at one point thought it was going to be forthcoming, and I think that was a miscalculation on that part. And Putin sort of sucker punched, didn't he? He sort of drew them in and then hit them extremely hard. And on an Al Jazeera Inside Story program, a Russian said, the Ukrainians were shredded to bits. Putin said in April that he decided to absorb Crimea from Ukraine, in part because of the eastward expansion of NATO, accusing the US-led military alliance of violating a commitment not to expand toward Russia after the 1991 Soviet collapse. During his annual call-in show, he compared the spread of NATO to a cancerous tumor. Of course, always interesting is Pepe Escobar, who says the idea in Ukraine was to bog down Russia in its western borderlands and cut off the economic trade link between Russia and Germany, cut Eurasia in half. But then Obama launched a Cold War 2.0 that could easily turn hot. He destroyed the relationship with Chancellor Angela Merkel and Germany and amplified the strategic embrace between the bear and the dragon, with the result that Beijing started paying less attention to the pivoting to Asia because now it enjoys even more backing from Moscow. Meanwhile, Moscow further stalls Washington's advances in Central Asia. He has a point, and that's the point I was previously making. I thought, in my view, the pivot was the defining issue geopolitically for the US for the next 10 years, containment of China. And I think essentially this move into Russia is an enormous distraction and has been very counterproductive because of those very points that Pepe is raising. I'll put up a photograph of a bomb shelter in Donetsk, which is on the front line of artillery fights between the army and pro-Russian rebels. I wrote about this before on the 25th of August when I said, my view is the new normal is a very arrhythmic world. Then I was sort of gripped to the TV because a video came out purportedly showing the US journalist Stephen Sotloff kneeling next to a masked Islamic State fighter holding a knife, and Reuters published a still image from that video, and it's in an unknown location. And clearly most reports, and I agree with them having looked at the photographs, although the voice in this second video has been interfered with. I didn't see it, but I heard it on the transcript. The purported executioner appeared to be the same British accented man who appeared in an August 19 video showing the killing of American journalist James Foley. He starts, "I'm back, Obama, and I'm back because of your arrogant foreign policy towards the Islamic State, because of your insistence on continuing your bombings. So just as your missiles continue to strike our people, our knife will continue to strike the necks of your people." And then the New York Daily News has produced a full transcript, which is also on Rich Wrap-Ups, and apparently the video starts with President Obama, United States of America will continue to do what we must do to protect our people. We will be vigilant and we will be relentless. This is Obama. When people harm Americans anywhere, we do what's necessary to see that justice is done, and we act against ISIL, standing alongside others. The news clip ends. Then the words come, a second message to America across the screen. A man in an orange jumpsuit is kneeling in front of a man clad in black, holding a knife. Stephen Sotloff is the man kneeling. The man in black, "I'm back, Obama, I'm back because of your arrogant foreign policy. You, Obama, have yet to gain for your actions through yet another American citizen. For just as your missiles continue to strike our people, our knife will continue to strike the necks of your people." Then hacks away at Sotloff's neck. And then the image is replaced with a picture of Sotloff's decapitated body. His head is lying on his stomach. And then the man in black is now standing next to David Cawthorne Haynes, a British citizen. And the idea is that he's warning of that. you know, and as I said previously, when I saw that first video, there is a spookiness about this British accent, and from the voice analysis and from the figure analysis, a lot of people believe that this is this Abdel Majid Abdel Bari, otherwise known as El Jinny, and lyricist Djinn, Jihadi John, Djinn being, of course, a play on the word Djinn, which has an important theological meaning. I'll put up a photograph of the James Foley beheading, and you'll see the comparison, and a screen capture of this fellow in his hip-hop days. And as I said, El Jinny, lyricist Djinn, is a play on the word jinn. The Quran says that the jinn are made of a smokeless and scorching fire, but are also physical in nature. And I think from the way he's portraying himself, that's clearly what he's feeding into. They are usually invisible to humans, but humans do appear clearly to jinn, as they can possess them. Jinn have the power to travel large distances at extreme speeds, and are thought to live in remote areas, mountains, seas, trees, and the air in their own communities. I learned from The Independent that the tomb of Prophet Muhammad could be destroyed and his body removed to an anonymous grave. And this is really Wahhabism at its most extreme. There are now 31 deaths. Eugene Kambambi, the WHO's head of communication in DR Congo, told AFP. This area, of course, is an area around 800 kilometers north of Kinshasa. But nevertheless, and although it's not meant to be the same strain, you know, viruses mutate, they change. And I think in the broad scheme of things, it's part of the same problem. Of course, I participated in that Al Jazeera Inside story about Ebola. That link is on the website as well. And as I've said previously, viruses exhibit non-linear and exponential characteristics, which means they are tail risks with enormous risks inside those little tails. Currency marks, I saw this from the 100. New aerial footage shows the shocking extent of devastation in Gaza. Currency markets, Euro 131.36, dollar index 82.89. I'm very bullish about the dollar. Japanese yen 104.93. Looks a bit stretched. Yen probably due a rebound. Swiss franc 0.9190. Pound beginning to break down 164.74. Scottish vote refers. Aussie 0.9306. India rupee 60.54. South Korean won 10.1885. Rial 224.27. Egyptian pound 7.15.15. And the rand 10.71.55. Euro dollar touched 131.10, which was the strongest for the dollar against the euro since September 2013. Dollar yen touched 105.31, which was the highest for the dollar since January 10th. The yen has fallen 1.23% this month, and is the worst performer after the Kiwi, which dropped to its weakest level since February 26th, after Fonterras, which is the world's biggest dairy exporter, so the price of whole milk powder fell to its lowest level since July 2012. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. I'm bullish about the dollar. US factory orders surged 11% in July after rising just 1.1% the previous month. I think these are perfect, optimal conditions for a stronger dollar. I wrote about that on the 25th of August when I said, you see, in the old days, these conditions would have created a flight into the dollar. And interestingly, the dollar has been punching higher. If things tip big, the dollar might soar, I said. Euro dollar, I'll put up a 3-month chart. I think that's still going lower. Gold, I'm going to put up a 5-day chart. Quite a breakdown. 1268 trading last. Touched 1262.60. Lowest since June 17. Having fallen 28% last year. It's still up 5.6% this year, but I expect the gold to fall down towards 1240. Crude oil, obviously, with a stronger dollar, a very weak gold price, came back quite sharply. I'll put up a 5-day chart. You can see that as well. $93.25, fell $3.08 yesterday to as low as $92.88. Volumes were 25% below the 100-day average. Prices have actually fallen 5.2% this year. Coming to sub-Saharan Africa, US may move Nigeria drone base to Sahara Desert. US is preparing a possible redeployment of its drones in Niger to set up a forward base in the Sahara closer to Islamist militants blamed for attacks across the region, US military and Defense Department officials said. Washington deployed unarmed surveillance drones in Niger after a French-led military operation last year destroyed an Al-Qaeda enclave in neighboring northern Mali. Under the new plan, which is still being assessed, the US military base would be relocated to the city of Agadez, around 750 kilometers northeast of Niamey. According to a report I saw, we've seen sharp Ebola-related price spikes. In one market, in the Liberian capital of Monrovia, the price of cassava root, a staple in many West African diets, was up 150%. Conrad Hackett tweeted, "Where foreign money is going in Africa," I'll put up that image. South African All-Share bounced 0.68% yesterday. It's up 11.254% this year. Dollar rand softening, going back towards the lower end of the range. Last at 1071.86, the bottom of the range is 1090. Egyptian pound back at that 715.27 level. Egyptian stock market surged to a fresh multi-year high. It's up 41.89% this year. And as I said in January, if the equity markets had a vote in Egypt, Army Chief, now President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, would actually get one of those impossible to believe votes of 99.8%. Good news also, Egypt business activity expanded in August and hit an 8-month high. This was a PMI report. The Nigerian All-Share edged 0.32% lower to a fresh 3-month low. It's down 0.1572% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 2.75% this year and is at 7-month lows. Interesting report about how African malnutrition is to surge with erratic rainfall driven by global warming. Interesting article in the New York Times saying that between 2000 and 2010, the number of legal black African immigrants in the United States doubled to around 1 million. During that single decade, according to the most reliable estimates, more black Africans arrived in this country on their own than were imported directly to North America during the more than 3 centuries of the slave trade. Coming to Kenya, the Americans carried out a major airstrike targeting a gathering by senior Al-Shebab officials, including their leader Abu Zubair. Abu Zubair is the often used name for Shebab's Supreme Commander Ahmed Abdi Godane, listed by the US State Department as one of the world's 8 top terror fugitives. Godane, in an audio message released days after the Nairobi Westgate attack, praised the Westgate terrorists, who killed at least 67 people. And he said then, "I have sent ahead of the hour with the sword so that Allah will be worshipped alone without partners." I'll put up a photograph of Westgate at Christmas 1,724 days ago, and I'll put another photograph of Westgate 344 days ago, taken during the attack from a long way away in caught fire. Apparently, Sheikh Ahmed Abdi Godane has a background in accountancy and is an poetry enthusiast. He became an accountant for an airline, but then joined Al-Ittihad al-Islamiyya, a now defunct militant group, and went to Afghanistan to fight. He has since maneuvered to become Al-Shebab's overall commander, although like Mullah Omar, the one-eyed ruler of the Taliban, he is somewhat reclusive, mindful, it seems, of the fate of his comrade Aden Hashi Aero, who was killed by a US missile strike in 2008. I'll put up a photograph of him. Interesting report and the link is on the website, Rich Wrap-Ups again. And in this report it said the leadership of Ahmed Godane had been kept largely unchallenged, in part by strengthening the role and resources of Amniyat, Al-Shebab's secret service, which is structured along the lines of a clandestine organization within the organization. This is, in conclusion, a big decapitation. But in the scheme of these things, you can decapitate the head, but another head rises up. So in the medium term, I think it's signaling a new, more intense normal. Crisis Watch, Crisis Group, is citing a number of deteriorated situations in their trends. Cameroon, CAR, Iraq, Israel, Palestine, Kashmir, Kenya, Lebanon, Libya, Pakistan, Syria, Ukraine, and Yemen. The Kenya shilling was last trading at 88.65, just below a 31-month low we saw last week of 88.90. It is important it holds below this level. I, for one, am not prepared to buy the 90-plus shilling dollar rate and even the forecast of 95. The shilling has confounded expectations before and will confound them again. Nairobi All Shares up 16.955% in 2014 at a record high, rallied 0.44% yesterday, closed at yesterday at a record for the 7th consecutive session, which is a record-winning streak any which way you care to look at it. The All Shares up over 110% over the last 36 months and has rallied about 30% since Westgate. And that, for me, that tape, the price action, has been emitting a very compelling and incontestable signal. The rally has good breadth, and in my opinion, the market is headed a lot higher. In the book Reminiscences of a Stock Market Operator, there is a fellow called Partridge who responds to every question. Well, this is a bull market, you know. That's the point. Nairobi NSE 20 closed at 5,163, which is a more than 5-year high as well. That's up 4.811% this year. The Bourse, the Nairobi Securities Exchange, sold shares and sells, and they got a 763% bid subscription rate, so it's well oversubscribed. And I think, as I said previously, it was a cheap share. I'll put up that photograph I took of Peter Mwangi myself just before he launched the IPO. Kenya will probably hold its key rate to stress cheaper credit. This is an article in Business Week. The rate decision is expected today. Currently rates are 8.5%. Inflation obviously broke through the upper barrier. However, I said the central bank has been trying to guide credit spreads lower, and a preemptive rate hike might undercut that message. That's my view. And actually, I think the inflation rate is at its apogee and is headed lower from here. 5 shares closed at records yesterday. Safaricom up 21.65% this year. Link is on rich wrap-ups. That's at an all-time high. Equity Bank up 58.536% this year. That's at an all-time high. Britam up 69.96% this year. That's at a record all-time high. BAT up 40.58% on an absolute return basis because they pay such a big dividend. That's at a record all-time high. And Kenya Orchards up 456.66%. That is the best performing share, bar none, in the stock exchange. Tiny volumes, very small cap stock. And essentially, the stock market remains in the sweet spot. Let's see how we get on today, whether we can make it 8 in a row. Once again, thank you for stopping by.